Welcome, Saugus. Tonight, Saugus TV and the Saugus Advocate will present the first in a series of 3 nightly forums, not debates, forums, on the Charter Commission question, which is on the ballot for the November 7th town election. We have invited all 27 candidates for the 9 positions that would take effect if the town approves the ballot question to create the commission and study possible changes, improvements in the town government. We have invited each of the candidates to come, and we're doing it in 3 nights, one tomorrow night and the final one on Wednesday. Because there's 27 candidates for 9 positions. That's kind of a tough thing to manage in one night, and we want to give the voters an idea what the issues are, why these people are running, what they hope to accomplish. This is potentially a positive thing for the town. Does the town government need improvements? What do each of these individuals bring to the table? Tonight I'm looking at a lot of the great minds in local Saugus government. Town moderator, finance committee chair, board of selectmen chair, longtime town meeting members, some people who are interested in spending time, and there's also some people in the audience, and in this process. And how can, the key question, does Saugus need change, improvement, and how do we go about it? Tonight we're going to have 3 questions, and I'm going to give question 1, why are you running? And what do you want to see as far as a change in Saugus town government? And we're going to lead off with town meeting member Bob Camuso, and give us a start.
How you doing, Bobby Camuso, Senior? I'm running because I see issues with the present town government. I see empty seats town meeting. I see empty seats on the Board of Selectmen because conflict of interest. I think there should be an alternate member on the Board of Selectmen, or a 7-man seat. That's my personal opinion. I want to see if that's possible, where we can get disclosures and everything progressed. I see a lot of input from residents on what they want to see, and they have a lot of fear about this question, and they really shouldn't be, because the charter issues need to be discussed, and I believe they should be discussed to see if we make a change, if we can become more beneficial to the town, because I'm in this for the town. I'm not in this for me. I'm in this for the community. That's just my personal opinion, if you believe me or not. I like to get involved in the town. That's why I'm the town meeting member in Precinct 2. I don't like sitting back and asking questions to a television. I like to be part of it and get involved. There's a lot of questions asked. If the changes are made, do we have to become a city? I really couldn't answer that to all the people I talked to, because I don't know how the study is going to show. That there are things we can change in the present government that we don't have to change to become a city. My preference would be that way, but if the town can benefit better, and if we have to become a city, then again, you go with the best for the town as a whole, not individual or separately. But I have a lot of questions, and I believe that if on my end town meeting there's 50 of us, if we have a constant 38-40 board, you elected me to represent Precinct 2, to have a vote for Precinct 2. If I'm not there, I'm letting you down. To me, that's just me thinking that. If you have an elected official and he's not in that seat, there's a problem. I understand when you have to excuse yourself for conflict of interest, but I also think there should be a system put into place in the government where if that seat is empty, that we can fill that to somebody who's been following. Like we do have boards that have alternate members, board members. I believe instead of having we have a 5-man Board of Selectmen board, and I'm not pointing
30
fingers.
seconds?
What's that?
30 seconds?
Oh, I didn't think it was gonna be that good. But I just think we should have somebody to fill that seat so we don't have a constant 2-2 tie on disagreements. If we have to go to a 7-man Board of Selectmen, I wanna see if that's possible and what does that, implement. I don't, I mean, there's a lot to explore here. It's kinda tough to get it all in 3 minutes and on pressure, but, that's why I'm here. I wanna be part of the whole solution here. I just wanna be involved. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Board of Selectmen Chair Anthony Cogliano.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the candidates that are lined up to give you their views on what they feel moving forward. I spent 3 months of my life gathering signatures because I love this community. And I have given of myself year in and year out to try to make Saugus the best it can possibly be. And so I am running in hope of furthering that effort. In general, I want to see more accountability and transparency in how our government, specifically our town hall, works for the entirety of Saugus. From the senior citizens who are struggling to get by, from the folks working 2 jobs to make ends meet, from our children who grow up in our town hoping to get a strong education and feel safe. To that end, I firmly believe that a mechanism exists specifically designed for residents to address concerns of this nature. That mechanism is a Community Charter Commission. The Saugus Town Charter is akin to our Saugus Constitution. Each and everything our town does and cannot do is defined expressly by our town charter. And in fact, our town charter has not been seriously reviewed in decades. Given the rapid changes in our society, it seems to me to make sense to review our charter and to see if there are ways we can make Saugus even better than it is, with greater accountability and transparency. Ultimately, the elected commission members determine what, if any, changes that are to be made as developed through community meetings and with community input. Those recommendations will then be brought before the residents for a vote in November of 2025. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Eugene Decareau, former town meeting member, longtime town observer.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm running because I believe we need to change. What that change is, I can't tell you. Until you study all the charters, look over and see what we can do by law, no matter what the Charter Commission does, it has to go before the Attorney General and be approved before you can even vote on it. You have to go in with an open mind. I'm not going in saying we gotta have this and we gotta have that. I'm not saying that. I am a Sargonian. My parents lived at 380 Central Street when I was born, and I live at 388 Central Street now, so I haven't traveled a lot. It's a great town. I've seen a lot over the years. We can improve. The town, as I see it right now, is far from being open, and the communication is the worst I've ever seen it. We have to have much more transparency. I was fortunate enough to work and retire as Vice President of Manufacturing at Eastern Tool and Stamping after 28 years. I know what it is to manage. I know what it is to negotiate. I know what it is to purchase. I feel well qualified to help this community change for the better. And what that change is, I don't know. But I tell you this, I'm going forward with your help to work on the charter to make this a better community. Whatever we decide is not what we individual want, not what we, our district wants, it's what's the best for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Ken DePatto, longtime chair of the Saugus Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Welcome to everybody in the audience and also everybody up here giving a presentation. I'm not for a change in the existing government, and I'll explain that to you in a moment. But I'm running because I want to protect the financial integrity that we have spent a long time, the last 10 or 12 years, in getting our government and our town to where we are. We have a double A plus credit rating, which helps us to finance and save money on interest charged. At one point in time, I remember that nobody wanted to bid on our bonds. We'd get one or two financial companies that would do that. Today, we get anywhere from 10 to 15 people, companies, finance companies, institutions bidding on our borrowing. Why? Because we have a double A plus credit rating. We've been through the pandemic. We've borrowed money out of the stabilization fund. We've replenished it. Standard & Poor's Global has made note of that, and they've rewarded us by maintaining our double A plus rating. That's the reason why I'm running. In case the people do vote to have a commission, I would like to be on there to be a financial representative of any changes that might be put forth that might put the town in distress financially or compromise our standing right now. Let's take a look at some of the things that we've been able to do because of the interest rates being so low and saving interest, which save the taxpayers money. We've built 2 playgrounds, a basketball court, tennis courts, reconstruction of Hamilton Street, reconstruction of Lincoln Ave. We've updated our water and sewer infrastructure, okay, all without raising taxes. Then the people, because they saw how responsible we were acting financially, they decided to support the high school, middle school project, along with the elementary schools that were rehabbed. We're the envy of the area, of all the communities that are near us. We went from a $250,000 stabilization fund to over $10 million.
30 seconds.
Just looking over to Marblehead, the town of Marblehead just passed last year or the year before a $2.5 million override, a general override, just to pay for the operational budget. We have had an operational budget for the last 10 or 12 years with no structural deficits. That's why I'm running, because I believe it's important to maintain the financial stability of our community, which rewards all taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Next speaker, Town Moderator Stephen Doherty.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to thank the Saugus Advocate and Saugus Cable TV for putting this together and giving us the opportunity to speak to the public in this forum. When the papers were first circulating for signatures, I heard talk of trying to turn Saugus into a city with an elected mayor, or possibly changing the town manager's position to be elected citywide, with the idea that that would somehow bring more accountability to the office. I don't believe that's the case. I don't know. My gut tells me that's not in the town's best interest. I think politicizing that position, if anything, would give it less accountability. But it's important, I'm running because it's important that if the town does approve this charter commission, the 9 people who sit on it go into it without any predetermined agenda. I'm willing to sit down, and anyone who's on this committee should be willing to sit down and listen to all arguments on all sides and everything that's presented, and come out of it on the other end with what they think is in the best interest of the people of Saugus. There are some changes that need to be made in the charter. There's language in there that's obsolete. There are references to, an elected official will be notified by the town clerk that he, masculine language that should be neutral. There are committees listed in there that the town no longer hasn't had for several years, and hasn't needed for several years. So there are definitely upgrades that can be made and updates that need to take place on the charter. But as far as wholesale changes on our form of government, I don't know that that's in the town's best interest, but I'm willing to be convinced otherwise if that's the case. And that's what we need, I think, is people going into this with an open mind to sit down and listen to everything that's presented and then come up with a decision that's in the best interest of the town. And with that, I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Steve. Next speaker, longtime Saugus educator, Lori Gallivan.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for having me here tonight. Thank the Advocate and Saugus TV as well. I'm running because I just believe that Saugus can be better. As a community, I would like to believe that we can have government bodies that are more efficient organizations that have a better balance of control. And I think that there should be a well-defined process in every step of government that we're, either way, step by step, things are being checked and being looked at, and there's consequences when things aren't done in a timely fashion by both sides, whether it's constituents dealing with the government board or the board themselves. And I just think that there really needs to be more accountability in some of the things that I've been seeing and watching in the news and around town. I know I'd like to see, I think I'd like to see staggered elections for somebody who's been a long-time educator. It's not beneficial for a school department to have 5 seats coming up for a school committee every time. I don't, in my opinion, believe that it's necessarily the best thing for a board of selectmen as well. But again, I much agree that I don't really know what it is I want to see change. I just know that I believe that in order to progress and to move forward, we have to have some of these discussions, because obviously there's a need for it. There's a want in the community by at least the 4,000 voters that signed the petitions to look at it, and I think we owe it to ourselves as a community to do that. And I think that I come not from the political landscape of town, and I come very impartial to the fact that I want to do the same thing. I want to see what are our options and what is the potential to move Saugus forward in a way that may not be status quo. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Federico.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out this evening. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for helping organize this event. I think it's a critical step to get information out to the community. Over the past few weeks now, I've had quite a few questions through the Saugus community groups. The reason why I'm running, I was first made aware of the charter committee while the signatures were being collected. A friend of mine came up to me, expressed concern about the town, informed me that the charter committee was potentially going to be created, or at least secure a position on the ballot. I honestly think this is going to be one of the most critical elections in the town's tenure. Immediately when I did hear we were putting the question on the ballot, I knew that I needed to be a part of this. I felt it was extremely important to have somebody with an open mind. For this process to work properly, I think all members of the charter committee should have an open mind, be critical thinkers, be someone who can look at both sides and all the needs for the residents. The residents deserve candidates that will go forward with open ideas, open minds, and bringing information forward to the public. I have noticed a huge disconnect over the past few months from the town government and the residents of Saugus. A lot of people didn't even know if we had a mayor and an elected town manager. Part of my process, if elected to the charter committee, is giving periodic updates to the community. I think in order for this process to work as intended, the community needs to be truly involved in this. I'd like to see everybody showing up to the meetings and everyone having a say and their thoughts heard. So that's why I'm running for the charter committee.
Thank you, Frank. And our next speaker, town meeting member for Precinct 10, Peter Manoogian.
Thank you, Mark, and SCTV, and I want to thank the people to my right for being part of this process. It's important when citizens come together discuss the community. I'm running for one of the 9 positions because I believe my related and direct experience will be an asset to the voters should they decide to form a charter commission. While I realize it is not difficult to convince voters to sign a petition to study their governing structure, it is quite another thing to get voters to accept any proposal made by a charter commission. In fact, the record will show that most charter proposals fail at the ballot box, in spite of what may appear to be initial support to create a charter commission. This is also documented by the National League of Cities, Robert O'Hare, in his book, A Guide for Charter Commissions. In answer to the question, the change I would like to see in Saugus is simply this: more citizen participation, greater voter turnout. Public engagement mechanisms can be established. Examples would be mandatory citizen forums for each committee or board, having an elected seat on each of our multi-member boards, such as the Board of Health, Planning Board, Conservation Commission, or Board of Assessors. Establishing a citizen engagement coordinator within the town's clerk's office to boost voter registration, citizen forums, or know your government activities, and actively updating the census. Having quarterly registration drives, voter registration drives. Perhaps expanding town meeting, currently the smallest in the state and in New England, to 60 or 70 members. Expanding the school committee to 7 members. Having the position of town moderator, we have a great town moderator, but frankly, with one of the few, if not the only community where the town moderator comes out of the body of town meeting, with a rare exception in that practice. By having the moderator appointed from the current body, the particular precinct where the moderator came from is down a voice in a vote, unless there is a tie. So my theme will be, how do we get more people involved? How can we include them?
30 seconds.
And educate them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our second question. 2 minutes for each participant. What makes you the best qualified to serve on the Charter Commission if voters approve it on November 7th?
What I believe, one of my best qualities, I have no ties to the town besides being a homeowner, taxpayer, and a town meeting member. The town, I am not a town employee. I can make the decisions. I believe I can make the correct decisions. I would be unbiased on every decision, looking both ways. I don't want to be selective. One of the biggest things is getting the question passed. The next biggest thing is creating an unbiased board. As you'll see, as all the candidates talk, they have positions on it, on what they want to keep. I'm willing to see both sides of here, because if I believe one side would create a better Saugus, that will be my support. I'm being upfront and honest. I believe I have that ability and honesty to say if Saugus can benefit better, I believe I should be one of the ones elected on the board. That's my personal opinion. This is why I'm running. There's 30,000 people, 21,000 registered voters. In the biggest downfall in Saugus, roughly 4,000 to 5,000 people only vote. This is a big election coming up, and I like to be involved in my community. I want to be involved in my community. This is why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anthony Cogliano.
First of all, I'd like to apologize to Mr. Manoogian for my phone going off. I thought I put Do Not Disturb on, so I apologize to the public. But sorry, Peter. Simply put, I believe experience sets me apart from all the others. I was first elected to the Board of Selectmen at the age of 25 and served for 10 years. I then took a 16-year break, returning to the board as chairman in 2019. I have the unique perspective on where a town has been, where it is today, and leaning on that experience where we can be tomorrow. As a member of the Moving Saugus Forward Committee, my goal is to make our government more accountable and transparent to all the residents of Saugus. My first priority is to work to ensure that the formation of Charter Commission vote is passed successfully. At that point, the elected committee members would then take the next 2 years to work with the commission and all of our residents to find the path that best suits our future. As I look to our neighboring communities, it seems our town, for a lack of a better word, is stuck. Our children are stuck with an underperforming educational experience. Our property owners are stuck paying for 2 superintendents. Our commercial district is stuck from seeking the right developments, which will hurt our tax base, putting more pressure on residential homeowners. As we sit today, we are well under our low-income housing percentage of 10% as required by law. Saugus is only at 6.8. This opens us up for more 40B developments that we have virtually zero control of. And finally, stuck advancing the host community agreement with Wind Waste Innovations that will bring millions of necessary dollars to Saugus, as well as substantial environmental improvements.
30 seconds.
I know that together with an in-depth review of our charter that provides the corrective recommendations which will allow us to tackle all of these issues I mentioned, as well as the issues that weren't mentioned, in a transparent and accountable manner. Saugus is a great place to live and raise a family, but we are nowhere near our potential. I love this town and want the best for all of us. Together we can fix it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Next speaker, Eugene Decareau, 2 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, I am not the best candidate. I would never say that. I am a candidate. I was on the previous Charter Commission years ago. And I have been involved in community service, and I have a little list of the things that I have done in the town. Thank you.
Speak a little,
Okay.
speak into the mic, please.
I had stated I was vice president of manufacturing at Eastern Tool for 28 years. I have worked with people, I've negotiated contracts, I've worked with companies, good, bad, and indifferent. We need, in my opinion, to change this charter for one particular reason. This charter that was formed back in 1948 makes the town manager, whomever it is, even if it was me, a dictator. It's got to be changed. Do you realize that we, under this system, are allowing 3 people to control over 30,000 people? Because all you need are 3 votes in the board of selectmen. That's wrong, in my opinion, and that's got to be changed.
30
I
seconds.
was Cub Master for 15 years, Little League for 15 years. I was on the YMCA Board of Directors for 50 years. I was on the Greater Lynn Board of Directors. I was a director at the Saugus Federal Credit Union. I'm a 55-year member of the Saugus Lions Club. I've been on the Saugus Board of Appeals, the Saugus Retirement Board for over 20 years, and I'm still on that. And I'm a member of the Saugus Food Pantry for over 20 years. I believe in community service. I believe in working for others. We are here to help each other. But you can't do it, number 1, if you can't communicate, and number 2, if you don't tell the truth.
Okay, thank
You
you.
can always work with an... Sorry. Thank
Kenny
you.
DePatto?
Thank you. If the voters were to vote to create a charter commission, I believe that there should be a member on that commission that would represent the financial interests of this community. I keep on saying that because some of the changes that might be put forward might be detrimental to the financial standing of this community. So it would take somebody that has an intricate knowledge of the financing of this town. I've been on the finance committee in excess of 22 years and chairman of 10 years plus. I don't even remember I've been on the committee so long. I've donated so much time to this committee, and I enjoy it, and I love this community. And it's really important for the people to know that if changes are made to the charter, it'll make changes to all the way financial things are done in this community. Different committees will be created. Things will be taken out of the town meeting members' hands. Currently, town meeting members have control of the stabilization fund by a 2/3 vote. They have control over any kind of rezoning by a 2/3 vote. They have control over the budget by a unanimous vote. They have control over any borrowing by a 2/3 vote. If it goes to a different type of government, that now goes down to maybe 5 out of 9 people who
30
could be
seconds.
compromised by political associations or commitments to constituents. So this form of government that we have, I believe, serves the community as well as any. It's representative town meeting. There's 5 town meeting members out of 10 precincts. We're well represented on every single article that comes in front of the Finance Committee and town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Town meter, moderator Stephen Doherty.
Thank you, Mark. Unlike a lot of the candidates running for this position, I'm not a lifelong Sigonian. I grew up in Everett, a city, so I'm familiar with that form of government from my time there. I moved up to Saugus in 2009, but going forward, in 2011, I ran for and was elected to town meeting. 2 years later, in 2013, I was honored that my fellow town meeting members had enough confidence in me to elect me as their moderator, and I've been re-elected and held that position for the past decade. My oldest son also settled with his wife in Saugus, and they have 2 kids that are now in the Saugus school system. So I have a stake in this town. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a homeowner, and I want to see the right thing for the town going forward, not only for me, but for my son and for my grandchildren, because they're not going anywhere. They're going to grow their roots here, and I want to make sure they have the right background and the right surroundings to do that in. That's why I'm running for this, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Gallivan.
Thank you. I really believe that I bring a fresh perspective. I'm not involved in the current politics of town. I am totally coming into this, like I said, with an open mind. I really believe that we can find a common ground in what everybody's looking for if people are willing to put the time and the energy into it. In education, everything you do is based on where you've come from. You restudy your strategic plan and you look for what was weak, what needs improvement, and what's the data say how you to get there, to take that next step. And I think it's that same thing. The charter is the way it's been written for many years, and I do strongly believe that if you don't evolve with society and with the times, that there's a good chance you can be left behind. And I don't want to see that happen to Saugus, and I don't think that we're in this dire area. I just think that there are some areas that can really make a much more efficient, transparent form of government for us if people are like everyone, I think pretty much like everyone said, if the people who are elected to this board, should this pass, if they're all really going in legitimately with that open mind to say, we need to look at everything, and we can't have any decisions made already going in. That's not fair to the community and to the constituents that would be electing the board. So I really think that I don't think that we can sit back and just leave it alone, because it's just the way it's always been done.
30 seconds.
I feel that progress comes from growth and from development, and I think that that's the lens that this board should be using in trying to determine what's the best next steps. So I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Frank Federico.
To my knowledge, I think I'm the second youngest candidate at 33 years old running for this commission. I think that gives me a unique perspective. I haven't been in politics before. I made a commitment to myself, as well as to the residents of Saugus, that I'm not going to play political games. My main focus is always going to be what's best for the community. the ideas that I have during the election process, I want to see evidence, information, and facts to back those up. And I would have no issue thinking differently or removing any type of bias from my thoughts based on the information provided by the committee. Again, as I briefly touched on before, the ability to have an open mind, which I feel as though I possess, is hands down going to be one of the most critical, as you've heard many of the peers up here mention that. I run a small business in Saugus. I'm a general contractor. I've owned that business for 8 years. I moved here 8 years ago, and Saugus, I feel, helped me create that business. I've always thought, and I've been told from family, friends, and the like, that I have the ability to see 5 steps ahead. And I think that's something that's going to be extremely important in this
30 seconds.
process. Because going forward, we're going to have questions that are going to impact people, and we need to see how that's going to impact us a year, 2 years, 5, 10 years down the road. And I think I possess that ability to do that.
Thank you, Frank. And finally, Peter Manoogian.
Yes, thank you. My nearly 40 years in elective and appointive office make me uniquely qualified for the position. Having served a combined 4 terms on school committee and board of selectmen allows me to understand the nature of the roles in those 2 positions, executive functions. My multiple terms as a town meeting member, as well as having served as chairman of the finance committee, provides me with both insight and experiences to the process of budget adoption and adopting bylaws. I also taught American government and hold a master's degree in educational leadership and a master's degree in public administration, which requires one to understand the processes and practices of local government. Specifically, I served as the chairman of the 2007-2009 Charter Commission. With 65 meetings held, I am fully aware of the procedural requirements for a charter commission that must follow. Adopting procedural rules, obtaining an appropriation from town meeting, and you can bet this is going to cost the taxpayers at least $60,000 for all the requirements. Hiring a consultant, hiring a clerk, supervising that clerk, compliance with the open meeting law, compliance with hearing notice requirements, procuring a printing company, advertising in a newspaper the proposed charter, making sure it gets mailed to every single voting household in Saugus on time are all tasks that require diligence and attention to detail. It's not an easy task. I've served as chairman of numerous
30
boards
seconds.
in Saugus over the years. As chairman, I've always made sure that every voice was heard, whether it be from the members of the public. In fact, the 2007-2009 Charter Commission I chaired allowed for citizen input at both the beginning and at the end of the meetings. Beyond what was required, we also had a public forum on a Saturday in this very room with focus groups. A good chairman brings his or her board together and values the contributions of each. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the last question of the night, the closing statement, briefly summarize the major changes you want to see and explain why they are needed. Bob Camuso.
One of my biggest things was, like I started off with, was just getting a little bit more progress towards the present government we have. I'm not looking for a full change in the government. I think when we have empty seats, that's one of the biggest perks I got in my head. When we have empty seats on elected positions, we should have alternate board members to fill those seats so we can get a true vote, not a half vote. That, as we can see from prior incidents, and we have 50 town meeting members, we have a constant 38-40. Why? I mean, I'm elected here to represent, and I want to be here to represent. And I think a lot of review has to be done on what we need to fix, because the government we have is working, but the reason I'm doing this, can it work better for the town of Saugus? That's my whole reason for being up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anthony?
Thank you. We all have our thoughts and opinions about what is best for Saugus and how we get there. To me, accountability and transparency are paramount. That said, there are multiple ways to improve accountability. For each of the elected members of the Charter Commission, for each of the elected members to bring their thoughts and ideas to the table for a robust, in-depth discussion and conversation that includes the community and the public. And for the group ultimately to make a decision collectively that they believe is in the best interest of Saugus. In general, I want to see more accountability and transparency in how our government works. I firmly believe that a mechanism exists specifically designed for residents to address those concerns of this nature, and that mechanism is a Community Charter Commission. The Saugus Town Charter is akin to our Saugus Constitution. Each and everything our town does and can and cannot do is defined expressly by our town charter. In fact, our town charter has not been seriously reviewed in decades. Given the rapid changes in our society, it seems to me to make sense to review our charter and to see if there are ways we can make Saugus even better than it is, with greater accountability and transparency. Ultimately, the elected commission members determine that. They determine what, if any, changes are to be made as developed through community meetings and with community input. Those recommendations are brought before the residents for a vote. At the end of the day, it is the residents that will and ultimately should decide what, if any, changes need to be made in our form of government. The Charter Commission members are merely a workforce that do the research, gather data, and make recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Eugene Decareau, 3 minutes.
Thank you. It's hard to say what major changes we should make. I personally am not in favor of town employees being on town meeting. I think it's a conflict of interest. It puts too much pressure on the workers because they have to vote against their boss if they don't agree with something. I think that's wrong, number one. I think there should be term limits or alternating on the selectmen. Absolutely. It's important that we have much more accountability than we have now. We should be like an open book. Employees, everyone here should be able to find out what employees make, what they do, and why they do what they do. This is supposed to be for the public. We're an open book. You can work better if you know what's going on. You cannot work if you're hiding stuff. Too much is negative in here. Exactly what changes I'd make, I don't know. We'd have to go through all the charters. I would love to see us stay a town and elect the town manager, not let the Board of Selectmen do that. We, the people, should have the say on who is running the community, not 3 people, or 4 people, or 5. The whole community should have a right to vote. Can it be done? Yes. Don't let anyone tell you it can't be done. I check with the Attorney General. There's no law that says we can't do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken DePatto?
Yes. Once again, I'll reiterate that I am not in favor of any changes to our charter. I think our charter is serving the taxpayers and the people of this community well. We've made many improvements. We've moved forward in this community, and things are going well as far as I can see, and I think the people can see. In any case, if a charter commission was to be authorized by the taxpayers, I want them to understand that the only 2 forms of government that are really available are a city form or a town form. Now, in our town, it's open meeting. It's representative meeting rather than open meeting, which means there's 5 candidates elected for each precinct, and there's 10 of them. So let's look at one of our communities that are near us. They're going to be building a $550 million school. This is a city. 5 of those members voted to borrow money to build the school. Then they took property by eminent domain and threw $30 million at the people. And then the people decided that they were going to challenge it in court, which undoubtedly they'll probably win, is the general consensus by the legal experts out there. They could be in line to be paying $700 to $750 million. The people of that community had no say in it. If it was a town like Saugus, the members of town meeting would have to authorize that by a 2/3 vote. It's a borrowing article, okay? So if they felt it was in the best interest of the community and it was money well spent, they would support it. If they didn't, they wouldn't support it. And guess what? The project would not move forward. It would have to go back to the drawing boards, and they would have to put something back on the table that's more palatable to the people. So if there's a change in government, it's only going to be a town or be a city. City has a lot of things that would change. You'd have to have paid positions for all of those boards. The councilors, planning boards, all of them. Is the town ready to pony up all that money, or would they rather use that money for something else better used in town? These are the things that they need to ask themselves. They need to be aware of the fact that change comes with a cost. And do they want to pay that cost?
30 seconds.
Do they believe that the town has been shortchanged? I, for one, don't believe it has. I believe this community has moved forward in the last 10 or 12 or 15 years for the better. So I ask the people not to support the vote for the charter, but also, because of the type of vote it is, please vote for me for the commission, and I will try and protect the best interests financially of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Steve Doherty.
Thank you, Mark. Again, I don't come into this with any predetermined what's going to come out of this process. Just sitting here tonight, to be honest with you, I've heard some great ideas. When I listened to my write-down here about alternate committee members on many of the committees to make sure that there's never a vacant seat, that certainly has merit. My counterpart from Precinct 10 spoke about policies and initiatives that would help to get voters more involved and encourage engagement among the residents, and anything that works towards that end, anybody would have to agree it can only benefit the town. So that would certainly move us in the right direction. So there's a lot of good ideas, and this is only one sampling of the people that are available for this committee. You've got 2 more nights of this. There are a lot of good ideas out there, and what we need are 9 people who are willing to sit down and listen to all of those ideas, pull in all that information without any agenda, without any predetermined, this is what the outcome's going to be, and formulate something that's going to work for the town moving forward. I don't believe that any wholesale changes are necessary to our form of government. I'm not saying we shouldn't be a city. I'm saying that at this point, nobody's giving me any convincing evidence that that would be a good thing for Saugus. But I'm certainly willing to listen to what anybody has to say on the subject and make an informed decision. I don't agree with term limits. I think we have them. They're called elections. If somebody's not doing what you want them to do, vote for somebody else. That's how term limits work. But I hope you'll consider me for one of your 9 votes. If assuming the board passes and we do have a committee coming out of this, that I would very much like to be a part of that, and I think I can offer a balanced perspective to help us get toward an end that'll be in everybody's best interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Lori, 3 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I wish I didn't have to always follow Steve, because I think we think very much alike. So, and that's a lot of what I really want to say too, is that I don't have any really preconceived notions, except that the question just comes to me, why not? What is wrong with us reviewing the possibilities for growth and change? There's nothing that's going to be decided by these 9 people without everything being put back in front of the voters. So for me, I think a big piece of it is just to say, what's wrong with looking at the possibilities of growth and change for Saugus? And we may or may not find that there needs change. I don't know. But even if it's a few of the small things that have been mentioned up here that were really good ideas. I agree with all of those that Steve mentioned, that people were sharing. But I think we owe it to ourselves as a community to put in the time and put in the energy to look and see what it is that we can do. And I would love to have the opportunity to be one of those voices at that table, because I am ready and willing to listen to what everyone has to say and see if there's something we can do to continue to show growth and progress for the town of Saugus.
Thank you, Larry. Frank?
As far as changes to the town charter, there are a few that I'd like to explore. And I do use the term explore because, once again, if elected to the committee, a lot of facts will be presented, a lot of information. And you can't go into it with these preconceived notions or a bias either way. We'd be doing a disservice to the residents of Saugus. It's not as binary as should we remain a town or should we become a city. We're not looking for that. We can make small, impactful changes to the charter, such as term limits, maybe changing the terms of termed positions from 2 years to 4 years, giving candidates more time in between their elections in order to actually come up to speed with town issues and have some time on the board to present and implement their ideas. Elected officials, in my opinion, should not have paid positions in the town. Now, by no means am I saying that there's any type of corruption going on or any type of issues. However, we do have the path for somebody to take advantage of our system by both having an elected official vote and be paid as part of the town. Lastly, and I want to make this as upfront as possible, this has nothing to do with the person in the office. I'm not a fan of appointed positions by any means. I feel the duty to go vote every November 7th, every election day, and having an elected town manager, I feel like I have more of a say than relying on a board of 5 selectmen where you only need 3 of them to actually put a man or a woman in office. So I think having the say gives the power back to the residents of Saugus so that they can go forward, create a healthy competition, and put the person in office that they'd like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. And Peter Manoogian.
With a diminished voter turnout, in fact, Anthony, what got you first in this last election wouldn't have got you elected in 2001. We've had a 40% drop in voter turnout in this town. And who does that leave in charge for your elected town manager? The Winwastes of the world, the developers of Route 1 who want more projects, more apartments. That's who will be in charge. It won't be the voters. The key to improving Saugus is to create, what O'Hare calls an enlightened electorate. If you read Federalist 10, how do you control a minority? By broadening the base, by bringing more people into the fold. It would be a major improvement in Saugus if Saugus had residents had multiple opportunities to participate in town government. This would require focusing staff and resources. I also feel that even changing our current Special Act Charter, which was enacted in the legislature in 1947, Chapter 17, to a Home Rule Charter, which is allowed by Article 89 of the Massachusetts Constitution, would allow the voters of Saugus more flexibility to adopt simple changes. Steve, what did it take us to get a resolution amendment passed through the governor and the legislature? We could have done it in-house and had it go to the voters, and they could have voted on it if we had a Home Rule Charter. I believe mandatory charter bylaw review committee should be established to weed out antiquated bylaws and new ones. Something as simple as changing the term from select man to select person would be an example. I also believe that if it is decided to maintain the smallest town meeting in Massachusetts, then those members should be required to observe the state conflict of interest law. I don't think they should be barred from serving. If they serve in Iraq or Afghanistan, are they going to come back in Saugus, become a public safety person? You're going to say, no, you can't run for the government you helped defend? But I do believe they should have the conflict of interest law applied to them. Think of it. Kenny DePatto on the Finance Committee, he can't vote on something that he has a financial interest in, but yet the town meeting member who does have a financial interest in it can vote on it. It's absurd.
30 seconds.
I also feel that incumbent town meeting members should be required to obtain 10 signatures to run for re-election, rather than the current practice of merely signing a piece of paper. I would like to see clear language, making sure that the executive function doesn't interfere with the legislative, and the executive doesn't interfere with the administrative, and vice versa. These are but a few examples that come to mind. But ultimately, the solution is more participation. How can we build that into our structure? Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the first night of 3 candidates for the Saugus Charter Commission to be on the ballot November 7th. And we hope you tune in tomorrow night and Wednesday night at 6 o'clock to hear other candidates, why they're running, and some of their ideas. And hopefully this will contribute to a better understanding for the voters as they head to the polls on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.